Return of Lunge the Dinosaur by James Mandolare. I am announcing my candidacy to be the Prime Minister of the Global Evolutionary Management Council. The GEMC will be dedicated to facilitating the evolution of our global civilization to foster all life on Earth. Our motto is, all life is created equal. I will be accepting candidates for representatives from every nation and culture in the world. Scientists, artists, philosophers, religious leaders, and statesmen must be elected for the council by a 60% majority of their citizens. It is urgent that human beings begin to respond to the climate crisis before the universe orders another reset extinction. We live interdependently with all life in the conscious living universe. The Mother Earth has sent her pleas for her dying children to the Father Sun. The Mother Earth is terribly sick with a rising high fever due to the constant burning of fossil fuels. She has told her Father Sun that her human great-grandchildren are lost in hectic, materialistic lives filled only with meaningless rushing around for cash to constantly buy more plastic gadgets and baubles. These arrogant, gobbling, short-sighted humans have grown cruel and perverse, hating all innocence and destroying nature to feed the endless greed of a few insane men who would gobble the stars if they can. The uber-wealthy are materially insane, nihilistic, hedonistic, and faithless. The bazillionaires hate growing older. Death is unfair to them, taking away their money and power. This is the sociopathic hatred of nature and innocence that leads to all conceit and cruelty. These are the poisoned roots of our latest attempt to create a more evolved global world that can live in peace and plenty. If there were no billionaires, everyone in the world could live like one. Buckminster Fuller. Fossil fuel companies forced the world to drive the privately owned automobile. They ripped up all the trolley tracks and stopped all the passenger trains and most other mass transit to force every family to buy a car or two or three. They built highways to connect the suburban sprawl that robbed the wildlands and cut down most of the trees. They paved the land with parking lots and endless roads and the roar of exploding engines, and the stench of burning oil and gas filled the cities. They knew the internal combustion engine leaked deadly fumes that would pollute the world, but they cashed in and didn't care. Deregulated and illegal industrial pollution of all kinds led to rising cancer rates. The wealthy went right on ever expanding and built weapons and bombs to wage ever more technologically advanced mechanical perpetual war and genocide. Billions are wasted on the excesses for a few, and war fuels their lawless excess at the expense of the blood of the hardworking poor. The endless, perverse party of the unbelievably wealthy goes on getting louder and louder. It is bought and paid for by the genocide of poor and powerless working class and underclass people through war, injustice, despair, robbery, addiction, brutality, and the compulsory drudgery of wage slavery. The human race is now forced by the bazillionaires to all march together toward climate disaster, mass extinction, and an inhabitable planet. But the party must go on, without law or limitation, ever expanding, gobbling up all that is pure and natural and green. Oh yes, the con must go on. The great grift cannot be stopped. The past must destroy the future, or admit that they have been petty bullies of conceit that are now obsolete. For centuries, the rich have ruled the world, lived their golden days of colonial conquest and racist and classist slavery. The only hope of the future is that their day is finally done. They foolishly think they can continue to rob the world of the clean and equal future we already know how to create, without bazillionaires, or sacred cows, or bosses, owners, liars, bullies, and tyrants. Despite rising tides and temperatures, ocean rivers of violent storms washing across continents, hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, floods, volcanoes, earthquakes, growing unrest, inequality, despair, addiction, hopelessness, homelessness, and cruel poverty, growing right along with their global corporate plutocracy. Even starving children and bleeding mothers and all the bees dying cannot move their dark, cold, and empty hearts. No passionate protests or civil disobedience against unjust laws can stem the autocratic tide of hatred, ignorance, and conceit. The cries of the millions of abused and forgotten children fall silent under the threat of imprisonment and war. Politicians lie and strut and get filthy rich off the productivity and despair of the poor. The abused citizens, overworked and underpaid, are worn out and robbed of all dignity and justice, dulled down by factory schools run by bitter and petty tyrants, teaching nothing but whitewashed history and violent sports. They prepare the children not for a well-examined life of intellectual curiosity and wonder, but for being a killer soldier in their next war, or settling for some gig Mick job, or being chained to a factory on the swing shift. This meaningless scramble for the stale crumbs of gangster capitalism's top-heavy greed makes innocent, abused children, poisoned by violence and materialism, to grow into mindless brutes that seek to kill all innocence and dishonor all grace. In their arrogance, they follow the liars, cheaters, and fools, and believe all the lies they hear on the corporate news. They fall helpless into the trap of hate and fear and violence. The poor deluded citizen, disenfranchised and brutalized, and fined and bled dry by ever more expensive basic needs, believes the insane lies of propaganda they are spoon-fed from media to be the God-given truth. Add to this the many other factors, too numerous or too horrible to mention. You know them all too well, and you have the perfect and inevitable recipe for disaster on a global scale. Now the monster of class and crass conceit has grown into a multinational cabal of fat cat rat bastards that have more power than any nation and can bribe and buy any politician they want. They are insane with bold and evil conceit and bloodlust, greed, racism, and cruel contempt for anyone they deem less worthy of life than they. A lifetime of entitled pampering from wealth and power they did not earn and did not deserve has left them empty of all humanity, empathy, or compassion. We must wait no longer. From this day on, the whole wide world must agree to foster all life and not destroy it. To begin this urgent healing and total reform, we must first end the rule of these supervillains of unearned and undeserved wealth, either billions made off only money, or inherited wealth, or wealth gained in a way that destroys the web of life and dishonors the totality of the perfect moment and the timeless art of nature and the evolution of all life on this miracle garden planet. There must be a limit on personal earnings to return to the working class the excess built on their hard work. To save the future of all humanity and all life on the planet, I urge you to take my warnings seriously and go out there and shout to the powerful that we save the future by ending the economic chains of class slavery once and for all. Insist on every street corner and every state house and seat of power in the world, that we create this new global governing body to save the future of all life on this miracle planet before it is all washed away. The world is burning and the flood is coming, but the balance of the universe may seek even more drastic solutions to human arrogance, blindness, greed, and cruelty. Humans, we are not the great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers of the universe. The human race is the little great-grandchildren, newborns to global evolutionary management. Our present civilization is like a toddler, the terrible twos, really, messing our diapers and having deadly international tantrums. But we are creative, ingenious, and adaptable. We have the knowledge we need to be able to create a future that is clean and safe and full of all we need to live simple lives in peace, without the totalitarian demands of gangster capitalism or the tyranny of sickness, despair, or poverty. It is time to rise to a more evolved humanity, not only by the forces of nature, but by our own self-awareness and divinely inspired will to make the way easier for the next generation, not a death trap. These horrors of want and ignorance and war only exist to feed a rich man's endless conceit, to prove he is worthy of the status and power that wealth brings, when he is naught but a dull and empty shell, a petty and spoiled child, not even capable of being a full and genuine human being. Dulled and stunted in emotional growth by endless pleasure and unquestioned privilege, these poor souls go insane and resent the basic demands of human life: aging, suffering, sickness, and death. This is a deep sickness of the false and empty self, left to rot in luxury, and seeking to destroy and sully all innocence, and to get revenge on nature for the changes that time brings, and the eventual end to human ambition. They have no idea of the wonder and perfection of this loving and ever-expanding mystery of eternal consciousness. They are blind to it all, lost in their own lies, a false self in a fictional world of high rollers, obsessed with their competitive numbers game of financial losses and gains. They are perverse and full of hatred, and should be made outlaws and arrested by the people. The bazillionaires should be put in one of their cruel prisons for life for crimes against the future of all life on the planet. Better yet, take their bazillions and give it to the poor, and make the fat cat rat bastards work for $7.25 an hour. Let them work at McDonald's and live in our crumbling inner cities. Let them see what their exalted lives have cost in the violence, brutality, drug addiction, and filth, and the beaten mothers, drunken fathers, and abused and neglected children living in run-down high-rent houses. Let the bazillionaire fat cat rat bastards live homeless in a tent in the northern winter, sleeping on cement, hungry for their next meal, and hoping for a generous passerby. The sun is set on Mother Earth's agonized pleas to the grandfather black hole at the center of the galaxy, and the message has been sent to the great-grandfather of the Holy Spirit of the One at the center of inner and outer existence. If the cosmic mind of the One sends back the decree that the only answer is an evolutionary reset, most of humanity will be lost in another flood and in fire, and the Mother Earth may force the few that remain into another evolutionary path, just as the dinosaurs had to endure when the asteroid slammed into the Yucatan. It is most urgent to immediately reform all of our structures and institutions to heal and foster all life by creating life-friendly processes and human routines and practices that honor and protect nature. We must end our hectic post-industrial lifestyle, give up the privately owned automobile and the totalitarian demand for work to meet basic needs. We must end all war and violence, end gangster capitalism in favor of democratic socialism. We must care more for personal wisdom, kindness, and service than personal income. We must totally reform our civilization to allow the Earth Mother to heal. I would take many actions to this sacred purpose, but the first I would insist on is the end to bazillionaires making money off money, sickness, scarcity, war, drugs, and toxic industries. All of their stolen wealth will be immediately confiscated and given to found the GEMC and fund worldwide action to save all life on the planet, end pollution, reverse the climate crisis, end drug addiction, end the use of violence in all forms, end weapons manufacture, end poverty, no totalitarian demand to work, and devote our humanity to replanting forests, cleaning rivers, rebuilding cities, and honoring wisdom over wealth and nature over machines. Let us be more aware of our darkness and our impact on the planet. Let us learn to practice kindness, compassion, courtesy, generosity, diversity, inclusion, equity, appreciation, and respect to all people and all life. Let us grow to live for love of life and peace of mind instead of power, wealth, and status. I, Lunge the Dinosaur, as Prime Minister and leader of the Global Evolutionary Management Council, dedicate our efforts to reform and restructure human life and civilization to become simple, easy, clean, and inspiring for all life on the planet. We are a good, big-hearted species and a creative and generous people, and we can save the world for future generations if we want to. But we must act now before the flood and the fire and the volcanoes and the earthquakes, and heaven forbid, an asteroid flung at us from older brother Jupiter ends this latest evolution forever and turns our great global civilization into the ashes and dust of forgotten history. The time is now to save the future. Let us not go extinct. Lunge the Dinosaur.